Hi everyone, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile and I'm your host, and today we're back to the founder stories. And I know you missed it, I missed it, and finally, the stories are back. And today's guest is Peter Mate, and you might not know his name, but you definitely know what he built. And every time you tap your card at a market stall, coffee cart, maybe small shop, the reader you're tapping on almost certainly runs on SumUp, which he co-founded. Over 37 countries, close to $10 billion in value, which is wild. And today's, he runs EWOR, one of the most selective founder programs in the world. Last year alone, 40,000 people applied, which is insane, and 34 companies were selected. Peter personally coaches them on product, on fundraising, on how to build a company that lasts. And in this episode of Perception Paradox podcast, we go into three things that don't get talked about, honestly enough, in the startup world. First, what he actually looks for in those 0.1% of founders who get into the program. Not the polished answers, but the things underneath that he calls the unstoppable gene. Second, what a company actually looks like in 2026, when one person with a laptop and a fleet of AI agents can build something worth $1 billion. And third, the thing nobody talks about until it's too late, how you manage your energy across a 5 or 10-year build without breaking. Peter has been through all three, and he is also honest about where he got it wrong. So let's welcome Peter Mate on podcast. So let's dive in. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox, and today the episode we've all been waiting for a really long time. We are here with Peter, who is a serial entrepreneur, person who is changing the startup scene, truly experienced founder and also expert within the technology innovation field. And he just mentioned to me that he has just visited 14 events in 7 days and spoke so much about his previous company, SumUp. So Peter, welcome to Perception Paradox, and I have great news. We're going to focus on a bit different topics today rather than just your story of a founder journey. Woohoo! So how is 2026 treating you so far? We're now getting into the spring mode, but it seems like you've been up and running from day one, like quite a lot of people from the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting start to the year. Last year there were so many things happening. The speed of AI coding tools, especially, was something that we were paying close attention to, given that a lot of the senior developers that I have in my network that I've spoken to in the first half of last year, they were still saying, these AI coding tools, they're for script kiddies, they're not, for building real things. And that was something which I saw changed throughout the second half of last year. I think maybe in October, November, something like this. And we started to see that the tools were getting a lot better. And I started hearing from people that, we're actually using AI coding tools now. And Claude Code was doing extremely well and was sort of the talk of the town. And then Codex came and improved their development tools and model specifically for coding so that it really improved as well. And then we had this crazy OpenClaw phenomenon happening as well. I was actually listening to Peter Steinberger last week in London, and very, very interesting to see not just what he has built and listening to his story, but what everyone else is building using this, and the fact that he open sourced it, and now Apple is sold out on Mac Minis because everyone is buying that to install OpenClaw on it and then have their own kind of agent set up on this, and trying to keep the security level at some acceptable level, given what OpenClaw is capable of. If you give it your API keys and some money, yeah, it's just nuts to see what people are doing. So I think if anything, 2026 is going to be even more interesting in that things seem to be accelerating quite a lot in terms of what's being built and where these technologies can take us. Everyone is accepted now that this is going to be the way that you're going to code. This is going to be the way that you build applications. And the question that everyone's trying to figure out is how much of the cake or how much of the value is going to accrue to the frontier models, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, and the Googles, and how much value can be created on the application and infrastructure layer that's built on top of that. That I think is something which will become clearer this year, and I'm personally pretty excited to see what companies are going to be built exploring these topics.
Super exciting, and you are working with so many great founders with EWOR, right? You've mentioned to me the last time we had a conversation, you received like over 35,000 applications per year, right? You have to screen it, you have to choose your founders, you choose that top 1%. Who is on top of the game with what you just mentioned with the technology. And last year was kind of, I would say, game changing. Like myself, I was installing a few weeks back Claude and testing and trying to see how secure it is and so on. So how do you think is changing the game you're in right now with the finding your founders, your top next talents, I would say? Because there are some things and criteria you are looking into the founders, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have our selection framework, which is built on our CEO's work at Cambridge when he was doing his PhD to identify outlier founder characteristics. Couldn't be more suitable for what he then later built with EWOR. And so we got probably around 40,000 applications last year, actually, and we ended up investing in 35 companies. So what's really exciting for us is, of course, we get to work with these incredible founders, these unbelievable people with these crazy backstories. We have our first grand pitch of the year is actually tomorrow, and some of the people pitching really are complete outliers, which is very cool. I mean, one guy strapped his laptop to his stomach with tape because he and his brother were fleeing Syria, where their apartment got hit by a missile, and they barely survived. And he made it all the way to Northern Europe, finally Sweden, and they learned Swedish, and they went to university, and started building companies, and now they're building one with EWOR, which is an incredible tool for building and managing your email marketing campaigns. Yeah, and we have tons of stories like this. People with extreme survival bias stories. We have professional athletes that are building startups now. We have people that are building completely new technologies. One guy has figured out a way to regenerate kinetic energy through pressure plates, which is 200 times more efficient than any pressure plate energy recovery technology that's been built so far. And he's got this crazy story where his university professors try to steal his IP from him, where he had to fight his way to finally retain his IP and leave his university, and then finally got funded by EWOR and is now raising an unbelievable round. So you'll see that on social media as well. So we've got quite the lineup, and from what I can tell, the quality of the founders and the incredible outlier backgrounds, it's just getting wilder and wilder as people find out what we're building at EWOR and how much we're actually doing and helping these companies and getting an unfair advantage to build their companies and compete globally.
That is so wild. And the most wild part for me, like they're so different companies and different profiles. It's not like just you're with your previous background, let's say focus on fintech, and then we're just going to continue doing fintech. But it's actually so broad with verticals you're covering, but that's insane. So my question go back to how you are spotting those talents and how you are working with the founders. So because what I'm hearing from you is saying it's very important, the resilience, that the speed, execution, thinking a bit obviously outside the box. What that founder, that top 1%, would do different in the first 72 hours than, let's say, a regular founder who just decided that, oh, it's trendy, it's 2026, we have a no code, I'm just going to build a company?
I think the idea that they pick many times, as it was for myself actually, is an idea that feels deeply personal to them. Some way that they were affected by the lack of the thing that they're building, and that they feel so strongly about that, someone needs to solve this problem, or this product or this service needs to exist. No one else is doing it the way I want it done. I've got to do this for myself. That's a very common thing. In terms of the characteristics of the actual founders, I think we talk about kind of the unstoppable gene, people who are just not going to give up ever. And the level of grit and resilience that people can have are on such unbelievable levels that we think that, even if their idea is not polished or the perfect idea when they get started with us, we believe that these people are just so relentless that they're going to figure it out, and with our help along the way. I mean, there are some teams that are just so extremely talented where they're building somewhere where there's just a ridiculous amount of competition, and with their skill set and the team they have, they could have a bigger impact, building something else. Then we kind of tell them that, hey, we love you guys, but we think that you deserve a better idea, and let's work on that together. For example, Sundar. So Sundar, he's now raised his seed round, I think 3 months after his pre-seed round, because he was growing so fast he needed more capital. So Sundar was from India, and he was the number 3 in India in tennis as a 12-year-old. There's a lot of tennis players in India. That's a pretty extreme result. And at 16, I think he got a contract with Warner Music, I believe it was, because he's also a studio musician. And in university, he won 20 hackathons. He was building a company that was focusing on AI optimization of food delivery. The team was doing a 1.5 million ARR. So I mean, they were achieving some success. But he came to us, and we thought that, and he's 23, like he's done all of this, and he's still so young. And we thought that, you can do even better than this, Sundar. Like you're so talented. Doing AI efficiency for food delivery feels like falling off a truck for you. What other idea can we actually work on here together? And said, hold that thought. And then the guy comes back in 4 weeks, and then he's built a fully functioning prototype of a AI studio music production app, because he loves music, right? And so this was like the thing that he really had inside him that he wanted to build. So he's built a company called Mozart.ai, and I think they've already got over 170,000 signups and users. And he's building something which is more for people who I don't know, kind of who have some experience with music production, or maybe kind of want to work on something where, unlike Suno, which is like, I think funded with 200 million or something crazy, and are doing extremely well, and there you can write a prompt, and then it'll generate an incredible sounding song for you. What Sundar has done with Mozart is that you can actually manipulate the song after it's generated it for you. So it's not kind of this one-shot method of writing a prompt and then getting a song, but it's a collaborative interaction with the software. And he's added collaboration mode, so he can have another person in there, and they can work on the song at the same time together, like a team. So kind of almost taking music production globally, and allowing anyone to have incredible tools where you'd need a ridiculous amount of skills and experience in order to be able to work and produce a track like that. So something that would take hours and hours, even days, to produce a one song, you can do it with Mozart, less than an hour, which is just crazy. And he's also very, very talented at social media and putting out content there to show, what it looks like, or what it sounds like when he's done a song or a mashup or something. So yeah, just an example of someone who's extremely talented, really outlier, but who was working on something that they could do better. And so there's many instances where we work with our fellows like that. Yeah, just help them to aim even higher and can reach their potential.
That is so crazy. Like I literally was thinking, okay, so you kept mentioning that you look for those founders who are really like unstoppable. They're gonna be super resilient. And I was like, how do you spot that? And now after you shared this story and then a few more examples, I'm like, okay, I guess it's kind of obviously different track records and how you can feel and check that grit that they're gonna go far and they're not gonna give up. And that leads me to actually a couple of very actual realities questions. So one of them, I would like still get your view about what company in 2026 or maybe a startup look like. Because if we look back, it used to be very traditional, right? In a sense that someone who has lots of experience, like yourself in fintech, you've been working for quite some time before you started SumUp. You had quite few co-founders. At some point, you were 5, who just also unusual number in a way. But at the end of the day, like many investors would look like you have to have at least 2 co-founders to have a complete team to cover different areas. Then we have Sam Altman right now coming for the last few years and talking about one-person unicorn. You've been mentioning about 10 people doing the work of 2,000 and the whole structure of the company changing. Us regular people are thinking, okay, but what about values? What about coworkers? So who is who? So I'm very curious to pick up your brain. How do you see the company in 2026?
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see that teams that are so much smaller are having this enormous impact. I mean, to say that you could build the same company with 10 times less people is probably not even true. You can probably do it with even less people. So I see all of our fellows are not just building products and services with AI, most of them, but they're also building their companies with AI. So they're using AI native infrastructure for their operations, for their marketing, for their go-to-market, sales processes. I mean, they're using AI all over the place. And of course, the developers are using these incredible tools. I read a post the other day, I think it was on LinkedIn. The guy leading the team for Claude Code has got a setup with 20 Claude Code instances, a few running locally, the rest in the cloud, and then having a number of Claude skills, doing stuff like finding bugs, fixing them, testing the user interface, and writing documentation and looking for security flaws and weaknesses. So it's one guy is basically like the conductor of an orchestra, and agents are playing all the music instruments. So it really is striking that it feels like the syntax of writing code, if it's not already all gone, it's we're literally a month or so away from that. Meaning that yes, you need to have an understanding of what is really great architecture, because that part is not fully, completely automated. I mean, if you write a bad prompt, you're going to get a bad piece of software in some respects still. And so I think it's more a question of being able to build companies with smaller teams comes from having AI do a lot of the manual or shall we say the time-consuming tasks, and where the developers or the product people or the people running the company can do increasingly higher level, higher value tasks. And so it's kind of empowering everyone to be that much more efficient and that much more productive, I would say. And that has the effect then that there's all these, Sam Altman is talking about it, the one-person $1 billion value company. I think it's almost happened with Peter Steinberger and OpenClaw. I mean, they're not for profit, right? But if you look at the value of what he's created and the foundation and how much buzz there is around all of this, wouldn't surprise me if this, even as an open source company, somehow becomes worth $1 billion. And it's one guy coding for a number of months, and then this is what he produces. I think it was as 40 45th or 46th project that he was checked into GitHub. So he was just building stuff and having fun. And that was also his message that he wanted to give to all the students. This was at Imperial, an Imperial hackathon in London. And he kind of said that, build something, have fun, be sort of this childlike play kind of mindset, like I've given you a box of Lego, go build something cool. And I think that was very positive and definitely a counterpoint to kind of this very capitalistic, like you've got to go and build something and make, you got to make all this money. He was very much more towards, if I'm building stuff and having fun, I will build something valuable, and then that's going to make money. But it's certainly didn't seem to be his focus. So going back to your question, what does it look like, the one person, $1 billion company? Funny you should mention that, because I was actually at an event last year on a panel, and this was the question. So in preparation for that panel, I of course asked ChatGPT, when are we going to get the first $1 billion single person founder company? And I think it answered, it was 2027 or something like that. And the type of business that it would be, that was kind of described by the answer, was that it would be something within kind of combining social media with a content creator ecosystem, maybe even a game. So maybe if you combine something like Roblox with TikTok, where you have people that are creating content, and that's attracting more people. So you virtually drive the customer acquisition cost to zero. Think what we've seen so far, maybe something like Midjourney, where people go there because they see other people's beautiful images, and then they take that prompt, they tweak it, and then they make their own version. So kind of refactoring or reusing content that is being produced by a community, and then that one person uses AI for all of the operational tasks within the company, and then just kind of manages and orchestrates a fleet of agents managing the company, and as well as the actual development of the product. I think there was a sole developer. He built what started off as kind of an open source game. I think it was called Stardew Valley or something very, very sort of graphically simple. Looks like The Legend of Zelda for Nintendo or something like that. And I think the guy sold like 800 million copies of the game or something. Half of it for the Nintendo Switch, actually, and the other half on Steam, I believe. But that guy had sold for probably $600-700 million. One person, one computer game. So that's kind of showing the potential, and that it's already happening.
That is crazy. And I'm now noted that in 2027, I see the first company built by a single person and AI worth $1 billion. And I liked what you were mentioning about this more in the creator economy. And I've been checking right now some kind of up and rising companies in the creator economy. And I think it might happen, actually. It is the content creation and the way you're seeing right now how it evolves and on what speed. It's just insane. You just really need to now work to bring your authentic self to the public content creation, I think, because everything it's also a bit similar. But yeah, anyway, we're talking about the companies, and it requires lots of energy. You have to be fast. It's not about just taking vacation and thinking that, oh yeah, I'm gonna still win the race. And not everybody has to win the race, obviously. But let's say if you want to be the top-notch founder, it comes with lots of mental pressure and stress. And that's also one of the topics we connected last time. So even right now you're sitting, oh yeah, I've just done those 14 events in 7 days in a very short period of time. We're just launching this tomorrow, and lots of pressure, lots of work, but you seem calm, very present. So when did this whole mindfulness and focus on health come into your life, being an entrepreneur? And maybe that would be the first question.
Yeah. Wow. So much to talk about there, actually. So at EWOR, we do a number of modules within our program. One of them is actually the personal development module. And that is where we teach goal setting, time management, and personal energy management. And it's a 4-week program where the 4th week is actually a week on location at one of our community houses. And then we have 12 to 15 of our fellows who are doing that module together. And then we challenge them to see, what does 100% efficiency and productivity look like for a whole week? Like what is the absolute max that they can achieve, so that they can see this for themselves and kind of compare that as a baseline. So we were in Austria at the end of last year where we did what we called the perfect week. And so that's when we get up at 5:30 in the morning. We do Wim Hof breathing together, everyone. And then we do a quick cardio workout. So we'll do like 100 jumping jacks. We'll do 100 mountain climbers, 100 push-ups, or as many as you can do. To failure. And then we go out and we jumped into a cold plunge of 3-degree water. It was actually an old fish pond, so it was kind of scary. In the morning, it was all dark. I mean, this gives you an incredible dopamine kick, right? And so after that, then we would have 6 hours of work, broken up into a number of chunks, and then we would have lunch. More work, and then we do like an hour of cardio fitness with either me or Daniel, our CEO, and then more work in the afternoon. And then we would also go maybe for a walk late afternoon, then dinner, and meditation, mindfulness. Some would do journaling, and no screens 1 hour before bedtime to just wind down, and then 9:30 go to bed, and then sleep, and then up at 5:30 the next morning again. And we did this for a whole week, and it was just incredible, the feedback and the comments that we got back. That one fellow said, "I had 5 days of work for this work week. I was done on Thursday. Like, I've got an extra day." And another one of the CTOs of the company, he was checking in so much code that his team started contacting him and other EWOR fellows, like, what are you doing over there? He's checking in twice as much code per day than I've ever seen him do. And so it was really amazing for everyone to kind of see what was absolute maximum productivity, efficiency, output, and energy for a whole week. Like, what does that actually look like? So that was very cool part of our program that we do. And now the next time we had, I think the module was overbooked. Everyone heard that it was an amazing experience. What I like to think about when it comes to my own personal energy management. So after that week, I was kind of lucky, actually. I got home, and then I stayed at home for 2 days with my family, and then I was off to a partner retreat, which is another thing that we do at EWOR, where we'll have like 10 investors, 10 EWOR fellows, and then we'll go somewhere cool for a weekend. In this case, we went to Austria, and we were there for 3 days, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we went skiing together. Beautiful weather, beautiful snow, hanging out, connecting, and just we're doing coaching calls in the ski lift on the way up if it was a fellow, or talking about investments and interesting trends with the investors, and just getting to know each other much better, and just catching up and learning about what's going on in startup land, but also just kind of having these amazing conversations with people who are experts in their various fields, or super successful in building or investing in a certain category. So that was like a huge energy giving weekend. And of course, our legs were tired, but in the evening, we'd hit the sauna, we'd do the cold plunge, and then eat dinner together. And it was just, I don't know. I think being in a community like that and having friends, founders, incredible people around you is just very, very energizing. So taking that back to kind of my own philosophy on managing your energy and while you're building a company, I think it's really important to not just build and manage your company, but you need to build and manage yourself as well. And that's both your physical fitness and health, but it's also your mental health as well. And I think it's really important to kind of balance or rotate these three things that are very difficult to combine while you're building a company. So, you have your company, you have family and friends, and you have sleep. Pick two. But if you're always picking the same two, you're really, negatively impact your energy and your decision-making ability, especially if you're not sleeping enough. But also you kind of have to rotate those three over time, which is one of the things that I didn't do very well when I was building SumUp, for example. Is one of the things I had to learn, that, I was just, it was almost all the company and then trying to have some time with the family and the kids, and then trying to get some sleep as well. And inevitably sleep was always the one that was not getting enough, and not enough family and friends either, to be honest. And so those things are important, that you're booking appointments and time slots in your schedule, so that you can balance all of those things, and that you're very, very deliberate on booking those time slots, whether it's date night with your girlfriend, or, go out with your friends. There's a real need for you, if you're going to be building for, 5 to 10 years, you're going to need that longevity, physically, mentally, and also motivation wise. I mean, yes, the drive and the relentless grit of building your company, it is an all consuming thing, but you need those other things as well to perform at your best. I would have probably taken better decisions. I probably would have been way more productive if I had slept more than 5.5 hours per night, right? While building SumUp, for example. And so, sleeping 7-8 hours per night is an absolute, non-negotiable for me now. And it's a key part of managing my energy, as I'm not building one company anymore, but with EWOR, I'm getting to build like 10 companies a year that I'm coaching. So I kind of get to have my cake and eat it, and live my best life right now.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And it seems like you're managing with your discipline to really bring those habits to your daily routines, depending on the week perhaps, and on how much you have to travel. But the energy management that you've just touched base and covered, definitely it's very important, and glad to see that happening in the startup scene as well. And that is changing that mindset of building the company while being maybe alive, right? It's beautiful to hear you say now that you've learned different lessons, and thank you for sharing them as well. So we're getting closer to an end. Unfortunately, that could be like literally 2 hours conversation diving just into the health topic. But maybe next time in person or on stage on some of the conferences, that would be great to bring such content. And I always have this tradition to leave the listeners, especially founders, with one thought to ponder through a day. And usually it can come, for the things you wish you knew when, let's say, you were building a company, or something that you wake up and keep reminding yourself, and it makes your just life better. In a sense, what would be that one thought to ponder for everyone who were here with us today listening to this episode?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like a bit of a cliche, but I would say, be good to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, in terms of expectations that you should have done everything smarter, better, faster, perfectly. When you're building a company, it's a journey of learning. Like life, you're gonna fail at a lot of things, and rather seeing that as something negative, I think that's where Silicon Valley has an edge over us Europeans culturally, in that they don't see so much as failure. They see it as maybe even a badge of honor, but how I choose to see it is you're learning. It's a part of the experience. Ben Horowitz calls it the struggle. And for anyone who's built a company and lived through that, and hear him describe the struggle, will resonate with that, because it's really, really hard. And a lot of the time you don't have anyone that you can talk to and really share, how much you're suffering and struggling while on this mission of building a company. And a lot of the times you're alone with yourself and your own thoughts, especially if you're the CEO. So be good to yourself. Do what one of my favorite stories of building confidence is the the Swedish female alpine skier, Anja Persson. She was known among all her peers as being just absolutely fierce and incredibly confident, to the point where everyone else got intimidated by her on race day because she was so confident that she was going to win. So, her friends would ask her, like, Anja, how can you be so confident? How do you have this belief in yourself that you're going to win? And he says, oh, it's super easy. Every night before I go to bed, I think of 3 things that I've done today that were awesome. And then I pat myself on the back once for each of those 3 awesome things. And then I go to sleep.
This is great.
I thought that was such a beautiful way. It's so simple. And yet, how many people do you know who actually does that?
So there was one practice I started to just into this gratefulness a few years ago, just writing down 3 things I'm grateful for what happened during the day. So that's a bit in that sense. And that really makes a big difference. You just remind yourself like that maybe everything is not that bad as you think, But yeah, Peter, thank you so much for finding time, joining the Perception Paradox podcast. We briefly touched base on a very interesting journey you are on right now with working with so many different founders at EWOR and bringing a bit of a different landscape, how to spot those talents, what we can do different as ecosystem, helping them and giving the tools to rise and shine, basically, and create the change in this world in a mindful way. So thank you so much for being here today at Perception Paradox, and thank you everyone who joined us, and see you when I see you. Good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay.